And indeed, this raises an important point that we have to consider going forward in the letter to Galatians. As we'll experience just next week, the very first word of verse 6 is not a friendly word that Paul is writing to them, right? Paul does not mince his words throughout this letter. He is very harsh in what he is writing to them. And as John Calvin notes, he says, it may surprise us that Paul is so harsh with the Galatians, given that there is no question of them openly rejecting God, forsaking the gospel, blaspheming against our Lord Jesus Christ, or flagrantly setting up an idol. So this isn't the Galatians making a golden calf, right? They're not doing that. They're not blaspheming the name of Christ, right? So why is Paul going to go so far as to call for those who are troubling the Galatians to emasculate themselves later on in the book? Even though the Galatians still believed in Jesus, they still considered themselves Christians, they were being taught that adhering to the old covenant law was necessary for salvation, was necessary to becoming a Christian. Particularly, they were being told that the Gentile men needed to become circumcised in order to be true Christians. There was kind of an intermediate step. You had to be Jewish first before you could be a Christian, right? In this letter, Paul relentlessly attacks the idea as a false gospel that was causing them to set aside the only true gospel. They are in eternal danger. But if they insist on cutting themselves off from Christ, then Paul's mind of the letter to Galatians is they will do so in spite of his impassioned pleas. If they are going to drive themselves off the cliff, he's at least going to scream at them the whole time until they do, right? Yelling for them to turn the car around. And yet for all of Paul's harsh words, here's what I would argue. And so if you don't hear anything else, hear this. Galatians is fundamentally a letter of grace. Fundamentally, at its core, it is a letter of grace. It is a bitter and often painful grace. And that can be the case, right? But it is grace nonetheless. Even though the Galatians are in real danger of committing apostasy, of turning their backs on Christ for good, from the very beginning, notice that the apostle is declaring that the well of God's grace has not run dry. They are about to abandon Christ, leave him, forsake him, be severed from him, and yet right from the beginning, grace to you.